Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Optimus NFL show. I am your host, Brad Bolt. Joining me, as always, is my co-host and good mate, Daniel O'Connell. Dan, how are we, mate?
Brad, I'm doing awesome, mate. It is so good to be actually sitting down and recording some new stuff now. It's been a few bumps on the way there, but we have made it back and we're ready to put out some good content, hopefully, for everyone to listen to.
We are, and today we are going to be giving we're going to go through some of the divisions. We're going to be giving our division winners, looking at some of the odds. We'll then also be previewing the first two games of the NFL season, since they will be played before we record our next episode. We'll give you obviously our award winners, all of that sort of fun stuff. But first, we are going to kick it off with the new news segment. That's a bit of a mouthful to say. The new news segment called the Pigskin Pulse. And first up on the Pigskin Pulse today is obviously the trade that everyone is talking about, the trade that has our man from Green Bay there all happy and excited. Yes, that's right, folks. It's Adam Thielen to the Minnesota Vikings. That's what we're all talking about.
Yeah, that's
No.
news of the week, isn't it?
Yeah. So there we go. There's the Adam Thielen trade talked about there. So no, we're actually obviously talking about the huge trade of Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers from Dallas. There was the contentious offseason with the contract being trying to be signed. Jerry Jones obviously saying that he'd negotiated this contract with Micah. The agent wasn't present, which apparently is against NFLPA rules to be trying to negotiate without that. So in the end, it's ended up being Micah Parsons traded to the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. So, Dan, being our Green Bay correspondent there, can you give me your thoughts on this trade and the fact that, I mean, I know you probably saw it, but I felt like maybe I broke it to you because I sent you like 8 messages going, oh my God, Micah Parsons to the Packers, what the hell?
So, yeah, I work of a afternoon, night time, so I'm normally in bed late. So I'm up sort of late in the morning, and from about probably 7:30 onwards in the morning until I probably woke up about 8:30 that day.
Yeah.
My phone was going nuts, and I have it on silent for good reason overnight all the time, and it vibrates still. So I was waking up when I was just starting to come out of my sleep. It was zzz, 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 non-stop. I'm like, what the hell? And then I woke up, checked my phone, and there's just message after message. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I've opened my phone up, had a look. I'm like, holy shit, it actually happened. Oh my God. Because you and I spoke about it. I said on Twitter, I'm like, there's a lot of smoke around this. Normally, when there's that much smoke, something's actually happening. But year after year, we hear about Packers being in the sort of frame for making a big move, or there's a big free agent or a big trade. The Packers are thereabouts and getting spoken about as being a team involved. So I thought, okay, is that one of these times where there's a lot around it? You think it's going to happen. There's a good chance it's going to happen. But end of the day, I was expecting Micah to sign with Cowboys sort of last minute before the season kicked off. So the fact that it actually went through and was all official and everything like that, that was the best way to wake up that day. Like, holy man, that was so good. And then I just spent the next 2 hours just not moving. I didn't get out of bed. I was laying in bed just messaging everyone and just going through all the messages and all the tweets and that sort of thing. So it was just an insane morning. And yeah, I obviously couldn't be happier about the move.
Yeah, so and then along with obviously that trade, I'm just looking at the contract details here. It's a 4-year, $188 million contract with the Packers, which includes $120 million fully guaranteed at signing, $136 million in total guarantees, making him the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history. So obviously, you would say that with the way things played out, you wouldn't have expected Micah to ever leave the Cowboys, as we were saying. Never would have expected it at all. We just sort of expected one of these things where what happened the previous couple of years with Dak Prescott as well, where they had the contract standoff, and the week of the first game, the contract was signed, and happy days. Obviously, with the first game then being in that against the Philadelphia Eagles, that's going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works for the week one preparation for the Cowboys. But then the crazy part that's come about it now is if you've watched any of the press conferences with Jerry Jones afterwards, he's done the whole, well, we weren't good on defense the last couple of years because we've got Kenny Clark. We'll be able to use some of that draft capital to bring in other good pieces to along as well. And you just sit there and go, well, all you've done now is you've traded Micah Parsons with now the extra first round picks with the ability that you might be able to draft Micah Parsons. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those things you're trying to see and hope that you can get that. I'm not really expecting that coming out the draft just because it's so hit and miss. There are some good, obviously, college guys coming in, but none of them which that I would be expecting to be on that same level as what Micah Parsons came into the NFL with. So, yeah, suddenly, and looking at some of the comments, it's gone from Jerry Jones was stupid not to pay this guy before the trade happened. And now since that and all the talk that's come out of it, now I'm hearing a lot of Cowboy fans going, thank God we traded Mike, and now we've got this opportunity to build a real defense. And it's just one of those funny things how quickly they've been talked into this. So I am much more on the side of like with the Packers. I think they've won this. And the crazy thing when you think about it, the Cowboys got 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark in that trade when the Panthers didn't trade Brian Burns. They were offered 2 first-round picks from the LA Rams. So, just think like when you look at the in the comparison, like I know they got Kenny Clark to go with it as well, but at the time with the Panthers turning down what they did for Brian Burns compared to what the talent Micah Parsons is, Micah Parsons is at that elite level, and Brian Burns was a couple steps down, and they nearly got, if Panthers had have pulled the trigger on that deal, it would have almost been identical compensation, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. So you spoke about the contract for Parsons, and it's a massive contract on face value. Obviously, his average per year is the highest for a non-quarterback. But when you actually look into it and break it down, the next 3 years of this contract is basically nothing to the actual cap hit. So 2025 cap hit for Micah Parsons is 3.57% of the whole cap. 2026 goes up to 6.26%. And then 2027 is 7.95% of the cap. So this is basically a 3-year contract with 2 years put on there, where the numbers are 64 million a year and 68 million a year, I believe, which this contract's never going to see that number in year 4. This is basically a 3-year contract at really good numbers towards the cap, and then they'll sit down and obviously trade him, which doubt will happen, or extend him from then.
What'll end up happening is they'll pull the New Orleans Saints thing, is that they'll get to that year and then they'll extend him by like a 5-year contract from there, which is again would be like another 3-year contract. And they'll pretty much keep doing that until, if his play starts to then fall off, that's when then maybe they go, we'll convert some of this money into bonus money or signing bonus, and we'll have void years, all of that sort of stuff. But that's a long way down the track. So yeah, he's going to be playing. It seems like a big number. He's going to get obviously a lot of money in that, but it's all the way that they've obviously worked these contracts is to do the smart thing there and have it all tied up in guaranteed bonus signing bonuses, all of that sort of stuff, so that things that won't really affect the cap, and he'll still get his money and he'll be happy because of the way that it looks overall is the 4-year $188 million. So everyone comes out happy.
That guaranteed money is high as well. So that's what the players want. They want that guaranteed money. They don't care how much they get, sort of thing, against the cap and per sort of year type thing. They do, but that guaranteed money is what it's all about for them. And then they know they're going to get their money anyway each year. So, yeah, the way this contract is structured, and This is Russ Ball at his best. Like, this is what he does, the Packers salary cap man. He's
Yeah.
amazing at the way he does his contracts and the way he works it. So, yeah, down the road, obviously, the time will come where tough decisions are going to have to be made about a lot of players. But the next 3 years absolutely opens up a Super Bowl window for the Packers, and they can still be aggressive with the players they bring in as well, and the players that they can retain on their roster now.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I know, so we are recording this on Sunday, the 31st of August. So if anything happens between now and when this episode comes out, please don't get mad at us. We're recording this ahead of time so we could get this in before the start of the games. But as I mentioned to previously, that the other trade that happened that everyone has sort of been talking about, funnily enough, is Adam Thielen going back to the Vikings from the Carolina Panthers. Carolina gets a uh, what did we get in the end? It was a fourth round pick. Or in essence, the
Well,
way it netted out was a fourth round pick because they have
yeah, it
conditional
works out to be
picks
a
and pick swaps,
comp.
and which then just sort of shows that how this has ended up happening too. Because then also this afternoon I was reading that Adam Thielen has signed a rework deal with Minnesota where he's taking $6 million off his cap hit to try and help them out. So look, I think this is going to be one of those things that Adam Thielen is going to have a role with Minnesota, especially for the first 3 games, with Jordan Addison out with his suspension. And then I think he reverts back to that third wide receiver role with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and is used sort of if they get that playoff push sort of thing towards the end is where um, he'll be utilized. So it was one of those things. They did that to obviously open up the playing time for Jalen Coker to come in. And unfortunately, today, Jalen Coker has been put on a short term IR for 4 weeks due to a pulled quad muscle. But then Carolina has gone and re signed Hunter Renfro after he was one of the roster cut down. So the way that Carolina wide receiving room is going to work out is Tedero McMillan will be the number one wide receiver. Xavier Legette will move to that second wide receiver role. Jalen Coker would be that third receiver. Him and Legette would probably swap, but now you'll probably see more than likely a bit more Hunter Renfro, actually probably a bit more David Moore as well, because he's been a Dave Canales guy. He had some really good games, not like eye-popping numbers, but he had a pretty decent connection with Bryce Young at the end of that season, so he'll step into that role. And then they have Jimmy Horn Jr. as well as another guy who's there. And also Bryson Tremaine is a young dude that they have as well. So any of your thoughts that you have on Adam Thielen before we jump into these divisions here, Dan?
No, I think it's a good move for both sides because Panthers obviously having him in the wide receiver room would have been beneficial for Bryce Young. But if you can get what works out to be kind of a comp sort of fourth round pick for him at 33, 34 years old, you're going to jump at that every chance you can get when you're a team that's not at the point where they're going to compete at the moment. So you want to try and build your roster with young guys again still. So for the Panthers, I think it's a really good move as much as you want him there helping out the young guys. And especially after Jalen Coker went down as well, it's kind of bad timing. But at the end of the day, getting the draft picks for Adam Thielen at his age, you're going to take that sort of pretty much every time. And then for the Vikings, yeah, they needed wide receiver help with Jordan Addison suspended for those opening games. And
Mm.
Adam Thielen's comfortable there. He's got a rapport with JJ McCarthy as well. So for the Vikings, they're competing, obviously. So it's a good move, bringing that veteran help. So it's one of those trades where both sides come out of it and they can look at it as they've won, and the fan bases of both teams can be happy about it.
So it's one of those things. If you're a fan of both teams, you can come out of that trade and say that you've won and you've also lost the trade, because the Panthers could say they've won because they've got a fourth round pick, but they've lost because they lose Adam Thielen, who was clutch for Bryce these last couple of years, and especially when Bryce had his resurgence at the end of the season. Adam Thielen was back in the team after having a bit of an injury or whatever, and he was really handy to have. So the Panthers lose out by losing him in that trade. Minnesota wins because they get Adam Thielen back, and they've got him there for that veteran leadership to take on that sort of role that he had with Carolina and Bryce Young. He's going to have that role with JJ McCarthy. But then at the same time, they sort of, I guess you could say, some Vikings fans could be saying, hey, we lost this trade because we ended up giving up a 4th-round pick for a guy who's 35. So, it's one of those things that can go either way. So, what we're going to do now is we're just going to go through, we won't necessarily dive too deep into some of these divisions here. We're just going to go through, look at the divisions, the odds to win the division, Super Bowl, give our picks for each division, our playoff teams at the end of this we'll talk about as well. Then we'll go on to our award winners, who we think will win the Super Bowl, all of that sort of stuff. So what we are going to do is we'll start with the NFC North, since we've had a bit of talk about the Packers and the Vikings. So if I read from least likely to win the division up. So we're looking here, they've got Chicago Bears are 4th to win the division, $6.50. Super Bowl is $31 to win. Minnesota's $4.33 to win the division, 23 for the Super Bowl. The Packers are now moved into $2.50 favorites. I've read this around the wrong way. $2.50 favorites, $11 to win the Super Bowl, and the Lions are $2.80 to win the division and $11 to win the Super Bowl. So, Dan, obviously being a Packers fan and now seeing them go in to be favourites to win the division, give me your thoughts on this briefly. We don't need to go into a heap of detail about these teams. We've sort of done that already with some of them, but give me your thoughts on this and then your division winner from this one.
Yeah, obviously the Micah Parsons trade makes a massive difference to the market here. So we see Packers coming into favourites. But as much as the Lions obviously need to make some adjustments, losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn as their coordinators, I still feel like they're the team to beat. As much as I'm a Packers fan, I think the Lions are still the team to beat because, yeah, they lose those coordinators, but they've got guys that are stepping in that they know the system, they know how to do it there as well. So I think they get Aiden Hutchinson back as well this year, which is massive for them. And as a Packers fan, it scares me having him back as well. So until we see sort of a step back on the field, I think the Lions are still favourites. The Packers obviously are right there with them, and I don't want to sound like a homer too much and say straight up that, yeah, they're going to win the division. I still think they've got holes in the roster that they need to sort of cover up, and any sort of injuries to sort of their main guys are going to affect them big time. So, yeah, to me, the Lions are still number one, but it's sort of 1A and 1B now with the Packers there. And then you look at the Vikings as well. We don't know what we're going to get in the NFL from JJ McCarthy. But to see what they did with Sam Darnold last year, after everything he's gone through since he's been in the NFL, I'm not betting against Kevin O'Connell either. So $4.33 is a pretty big number for them to win the division as far as I'm concerned. I think they'll be right there as well. And from the draft episodes, I like JJ McCarthy. He's just a winner. And they're not going to ask him to do too much and go out there and be Superman for them. So, yeah, we've said it before, we'll say it all the time. This could be, we talk about the AFC North being the toughest division in football and the meanest division. I think NFC North is the toughest division in football right now. And we're not even talking about Chicago taking a step up either. Obviously, Caleb Williams going his second year. How much improvement do they get out of him? He's looked still a bit all over the place in preseason. But what magic can Ben Johnson work with him? And they've made improvements to their side as well. So, yeah, this is still Lions division with Packers right there with them for me. And Minnesota maybe just a game or two back. And then we said before the show, Chicago could be a 9-18 this year. So they could genuinely be every team in this division above 500, which is crazy to think about. So I'm looking forward to how it all shakes out.
Yeah, so my thought process on this is I was pretty similar to you. I sort of have it Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago in that order. But I would not be shocked if Chicago and Minnesota swap places. But I also wouldn't be shocked if Chicago are about the same as they were last year, because I think the Ben Johnson thing could be a 2-year process. So year one is working out all the kinks, and then year two is where they make that step. Sort of the same way in my mind of when Dan Campbell went to the Lions. Remember that first year they went like 3-13-1
Yeah.
or something like that, and then the second year is when they made their leap. I'm sort of thinking something along the same lines for Chicago as well. I've got Detroit winning. I think they take a step back from where they were last year because of the coordinator losses, but that could be one win here and there, maybe two. You'll remember from the draft show, you were saying you like JJ McCarthy. You'll remember that I didn't like JJ McCarthy. So that'll be interesting. Because my only thing with Minnesota is that they we haven't seen it yet. Now I know that Sam Darnold wasn't, a fantastic NFL quarterback before he met with Kevin O'Connell, but he had played for years in the NFL. And the other thing too, he'd been with Kyle Shanahan the year before, and then he went to Kevin O'Connell. But he'd been in these situations. He knew NFL defenses, what they did. He's played all these things. Like JJ McCarthy's not taken a meaningful NFL snap. Preseason, I don't really count because it's different. It's not first team guys that you play all the time. The stakes aren't the same, whatever. So to me, the JJ McCarthy thing is going to be the big factor here. I am just going to say now that I have only 2 teams from this division making the playoffs. Because generally with the playoffs, usually you see each year 3 from each division that were in the playoffs the year before miss the following season. I don't know if I can get to 3. I've got 2. And one of those 2 that's out is the Minnesota Vikings for me. So I think, and that's not a thing to, upset the Vikings fans or whatever. I just think that year one, JJ McCarthy, if he's going to be as good as what he could, how Dan thinks he's going to be, to me, that's going to be a year two JJ McCarthy type of thing, not a first year, because he's essentially a rookie this year. So that was my thinking behind it there. So I've got Detroit winning, and spoiler pick, I do have Green Bay making the playoffs as a wild card team. But I think it's going to be one of those things, as you said, 1A, 1B. Could be that the Lions are a 13-win team and the Packers are a 12-win team. That type of thing is what I'm sort of looking at with those two teams. They're not massively apart from there, and they're both fighting for the division right up until those last couple of weeks.
Well, you look at last year, the Lions swept the Packers, and so did the Vikings as well. I don't think that happens this year. I think the Packers, they can split the games like we've seen a lot in the past. So I think Lions drop a game there straight off the bat. So I see them sort of a 12-win team with the Packers being an 11-win team. And then
something like that. Yeah.
can easily flip. Like anything can happen in this division. We're just going off based on what we expect to happen with the schedule and that sort of thing. But during the NFL season, so many things change within that season as well. So I think Aiden Hutchinson coming back for the Lions is a massive thing and just as big as Micah coming to the Packers. So I don't think Detroit takes that big of a step back.
Yeah, so my only thing, and then we'll move on to the next division after this. My only thing was I thought that just due to the devastating type of injury that Aiden Hutchinson had, I think him coming back will be great, but he's not going to be the Aiden Hutchinson of last year. I'm expecting that sort of leap from him to come back in. Because generally, like with guys when they come back, and I know we sort of talk about running backs and receivers when we talk this, but generally the year after is when you want that guy at his peak. Like, I just wouldn't be shocked if Aiden Hutchinson's not necessarily a step slower, but is just maybe that step more hesitant this season, just getting back into the swing of everything coming into the year sort of thing. So that's where I could see, potentially they lose a little bit from him, but they obviously hope that they gain it with some of their other additions they've had for the year and just overall team play sort of thing. So,
and such a big part of his game is that explosiveness off the first step as well. So it could take a few weeks at the start of the season to get back in, but I don't think it'll be sort of come mid-season. I think he'll be hitting his straps perfectly and causing all sorts of chaos off the edge.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start moving through some of these a little bit quicker so we're not here for days, guys. Sorry about that, because such a big, interesting division of football. Like you said, it's hard not to get caught up on just talking about that one. So we now move on to the NFC South. So we've got the New Orleans Saints at $14 to win the division and 501 to win the Super Bowl. Carolina is $4.50 to win the division and 101 for the Super Bowl. Atlanta Falcons $3.30 for the division and Super Bowl $61, and then Tampa Bay the favourites at $1.83 and $23 to win the Super Bowl. So just quickly, I have the Falcons and the Panthers swapped here in the order, and that's probably me being a homer, but I could see, because everyone's on the Atlanta Falcons to have a great year, and they went. A lot of it was, look what they did last year with Kirk Cousins, and then they fell apart at the end. They had to bring in Michael Penix and whatever. I always just have a little bit of worry about Michael Penix, considering he just had the 4 season-ending injuries in college, and he's played 3 games in the NFL, and one of them was against the Panthers, and they lost that one 44-38 in overtime. I think I've got the Bucks winning this, and then I have the 2 teams swapped around. I think with the way that the ascension that Bryce Young had towards the back half of last year, the amount of money that they have spent on the defensive line. So we saw the season before from Carolina, they overpaid, a lot of people said, for the guards on the offensive line by bringing in Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. This year they've gone and they've quote unquote overpaid on the defensive line. When you look at guys that they brought in like Patrick Jones, Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, then they brought in Christian Roseboom as well as a linebacker. It was guys who, and then drafting Princely Umanmielen and Nick Scotton. It was one of those things they really had to fix the defense, because the defense gave up the most points of anyone in the history of the NFL last year. So I'm not going to say that the Panthers are going to have a world-beating team, but I think if they can go from the 32nd defense to, say, the 18th, that'll be a huge jump as to where they were as a team. And when you look at some of the teams, a lot of people say, hey, Bryce Young wasn't really that fantastic last year when he came back. Look at his things. But you look at his games, they could have beaten the Eagles. Xavier Legette dropped the pass in the end zone and cost them the game. They could have beaten the Eagles. They lost to the Chiefs by 3 points. So they played and they pushed them the entire way too. So it was one of these things that Bryce came back and was a completely different quarterback. I think year 2 in the Dave Canales system. And we look too, Dave Canales is the guy who actually started to turn Baker Mayfield's career around when he was at Tampa Bay. He was the offensive coordinator. And before that, Dave Canales was in Seattle, where they had Geno Smith, who was the backup guy who everyone just saw as the career backup, and suddenly he's a starting quarterback and playing everywhere in the NFL and doing pretty well. So Tampa Bay, I think, is just too good with all the people that they've got. Atlanta still has some questions for me as well. I'm a little bit concerned about Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., especially to James Pierce Jr. They gave up a first-round pick in next year's draft to move back up into the first round to get him. So they're trying to fix their defense as well. So I think that Carolina is going to be on the improve, and I'm not 100% sold on Penix yet, just because he's played 3 games. He looked good in the 3 games, but the one thing that we sort of see in NFL quarterbacks all the time is that when you've got tape on you, the other NFL teams start to know what you do well, and they take that away from you. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Give me your thoughts on this, because I've rambled on far too long about the NFC South.
Yeah, as expected, considering it's your division with the Panthers in it. But I can see the Panthers making a good jump this year. I'm just not sure I can get them above 8 wins for the season. Where Atlanta, we've seen it, and even with Kirk Cousins last year, with how poor he was, I don't think we're going to need Michael Penix to be super good quarterback. Obviously, we need him to be good, obviously, but we've got Bijan Robinson there. You got Drake London, got Kyle Pitts, which seems to be forming a pretty good connection with Michael Penix as well. So I think the Falcons have the weapons there to be able to sort of outduel Carolina as far as comes to finishing second in this division. It's just yeah, Michael Penix, how good can he be? I don't think he's going to push for winning the division. Like we said, Tampa Bay, I think, have that lockdown. They need an injury to Baker Mayfield there to kind of fall way back to the pack and be taken over for the division. But yeah, that second and third position in this division becomes really interesting because I can see it going either way. I can see the Falcons winning 9 games, Panthers winning 8 games, but it's not going to take much for the Panthers to leapfrog them. And we saw Bryce Young make a good jump last year. Another year in Canales' system. So, yeah, the good battle here is second and third in this division. Whether they can compete for a wild card spot, who knows this early in the season. Plenty has to play out there, but it'll be tough for either of those teams, I think, to get that wild card spot. And then we look at New Orleans and they're basically fighting whoever else for the number one overall pick this year. They're not. That's all they're looking at. There's no way they're sort of competing for anything in this division. They're basically looking at the number one pick. So, yeah, I think
Mm.
Tampa Bay is going to be way too good this year in this division and the clear favourites.
Yeah, my only thing with Atlanta too is they've just lost Caleb McGarry for the year, who's their right tackle, who really is with Michael Penix being the left-hander, it's his blindside protector. He's gone for the year, who's one of the better right tackles in the NFL. And I know what you're saying, but to me too, they also seem like, and this is you can say this about any team, but one injury away from having a bad season. Like if they lose Drake London through, say he's gone for 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain or something like that. Last year in the 3 games that they played, do you know how much the target percentage of throws that Michael Penix had to Drake London in those 3 games last year? Do you know off
Yeah,
the top of your head?
I don't off the top of my head, but he would have been leading the league comfortably.
Yeah.
Like
So
35% or something.
in the 3 games that they played with Michael Penix as quarterback, Drake London had a 40% target share in those 3 games. So it's one of those things. Like if there's a Drake London injury who's gone for 4 games, or a Michael Penix injury, or a Bijan injury, like I could see that sort of causing some issues. And losing Caleb McGarry is a big loss too for the Falcons. So that's part of the reasoning why I had Carolina jumping up and Atlanta swapping down. So moving now on to the NFC East here, we got New York Giants $15 to win the division, 201 for the Super Bowl, $7.50 for the Dallas Cowboys, 51 Super Bowl. The Washington Commanders at $3.20 to win the division and $17 for the Super Bowl, and the previous champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, at $1.62 to win and $7.50 for the Super Bowl. I'm just going here. Philadelphia's winning this for me. I've got it in that exact order that I just read them out. That it's Philly, Washington, Dallas, New York.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sort of straight cut for me as well. The only thing is, we know Dallas is going to be obviously worse off defensively now with Micah Parsons gone. How much does
Mm,
that affect their win total overall? Because I think the Giants can be better than what they were last year with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And
mm,
then if he does falter, you got Jackson Dart coming in, who, yes, it's preseason, but he looked really good, looked like he was in control of the offense. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to rely a lot on that offense this year. And Dak coming back from a big injury as well. How's he going to look? So I think, yeah, third and fourth in this division is sort of up for grabs. But yeah, Philadelphia are way too good. And
mm.
Washington have got a lot better as well. And Jaden Daniels in his second year now. Does he have a sophomore slump or does he just continue to absolutely kill it? I'm expecting him to still absolutely kill it. So they can push Philly for the division, but I don't see Philly losing this at all.
No, I think they're going to be the first NFC East repeat division champions for the first time in 20 odd years. Philly there. The only thing I would say with Washington is I don't think that they will win as many games as they did last year, just because the way that they were converting on fourth down, I think they were 20 of 24 for the season on fourth down. Things like that generally tend to regress back to the mean, so they still probably will go for it more than majority of teams, but I could see them being a little bit worse than they were the year before. The team is a lot older as well with Washington, with some of their guys that they've brought in. So I could see them still being good. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be good. I still think they're going to be way up there, but like a game or two less wins than what they had last year is potentially on the table for them, just based off of everything that happened for them last year, coming back a little bit this year. So it could happen. NFC West, this is also going to be one of the most fascinating divisions in the NFL, just how this plays out. So we've got the Seahawks are predicted to finish fourth in division, $6 to win, 61 for the Super Bowl. The Cardinals, $4.50 and 36 for the Super Bowl. $3 for the Rams and 17 for the Super Bowl to win. And the San Francisco 49ers predicted to be the division winner at $2.37, $15 for the Super Bowl. I have this completely different how this is going to work out. I've got Rams, 49ers, Seahawks, then Cardinals finishing last. The Rams, the, the difficult thing is, I really believe in the Rams, and I believe that they're a really, really good team. The only thing that may determine how they finish this season is Matthew Stafford and his back. That's my only concern for them. But I'm still going into this that Matthew Stafford will somehow gut it out the whole season and will manage to win the division. I do understand that the 49ers, based on the strength of schedule, have the easiest strength of schedule in the entire NFL this season. So that's why they're sort of division favorites. I'm just a little concerned that when their number one weapon after George Kittle is going to be Ricky Pearsall, or it's going to be Jawan Jennings for a while, it sort of makes me worry a little bit because I don't trust Kyle Shanahan when he tells us that a running back named Christian McCaffrey's just got a sore calf and will be right for week one and ends up missing 8 weeks because of bilateral Achilles tendonitis is what they called it. It just makes me worry a little bit. So that's my reasoning for swapping those around that way. And I believe that the Seahawks defense is going to be even better this year. I reckon they're going to be up there in that maybe top 5 defenses in the NFL another year under Mike McDonald. I just see them better than the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's done a lot in the offseason to improve, and I get that, but I just trust that defense a lot more to win them games than what I do, say, the Arizona defense and offense.
Yeah, like you touched on with the Rams, Matthew Stafford's back injury is the most important thing to watch for this season. And if he is healthy, if he's out there every week, he might have maybe a week off to rest here or there. I'm not sure, but if he's on the field for the Rams, I think they're division favourites because defensively they've got the pieces in place now to be really good. They add Devontae Adams there. They lose Cooper Kupp, but you're adding Devontae Adams, who he's better than Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
So you put him next to Puka Nakua, and they've got those weapons there. You've got Kyron Williams. I just think as long as Matthew Stafford's on the field, to me, they're the best team in the division. The 49ers, they're going to be without Brandon Ayuk for half the season, by the looks of things. Juwan Jennings, no guarantee to be fit for week one. He could be struggling early in the season. Ricky Pearsall, as much as I like him, we don't know what he's like as even a number 2 target. We don't know what he's like as a number 1 target. So there's enough question marks obviously there in the wide receiver room where they're going to struggle early on. They're going to rely on George Kittle a lot, who obviously one of the best tight ends in the league. They're going to rely on Christian McCaffrey a lot early on as well, which with his injury history may not be the best thing. And yeah, they brought in Brian Robinson Jr., but how good actually is he? Like, he was serviceable with Washington, but he's not a top-level back. So I just think there's so many question marks on this offense at the moment that there's enough there to push them back to second as long as Matthew Stafford's on the field. And then, like you said, Arizona, Seattle. It's really hard to pick because Sam Darnold without Kevin O'Connell, what are we going to see? Are we going to go back to sort of everyone calls him the pumpkin? We'll go back to that like he was with the Jets and that sort of thing. We saw him start with the 49ers, but he didn't play like consistently with them, so we don't know what he's like there. What we saw out of him last year was sort of an outlier of what we expect him to be year to year. So I don't know what we're getting with him, but they've got the players around him to lift him up. And like you said, that defense there is phenomenal. They've got Cooper Kupp there now. They've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. They've got Kenneth Walker. They've got Zach Charbonnet. They've got weapons there. So, yeah, I'm putting them third as well in the division. I think it's really tight with them in Arizona. But again, they could both be 9-win teams. So this is going to be a really tough division for everyone in there. And it's not where someone's going to run away with it. But, yeah, I think it's Rams and 49ers battling it out for top. And then Cardinals and Seattle trying to be as close as they can there. But how much do we actually trust Kyler Murray week to week to win the games?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see Arizona coming last in the division with Seattle jumping them. And, yeah, I've got Rams winning as long as Stafford is healthy. And we can't predict injuries. We can't know what's going to happen. We expect him, by the looks of things, to be there week one. You're just hoping he doesn't get an injury where it's knocking him out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But as long as he's on the field, they've got every chance to win. So, yeah, I've got Rams first, 49ers second.
Yeah, cool. So we're sort of thinking along the same lines with that, which is funny how we've ended up pretty similar in most of our divisions, which shows how we are. So what I'll do is, can you just run me through who are your 7 NFC playoff teams? So your 4 division winners plus your 3 wildcard teams.
So I've got the Lions winning the NFC North with the Packers right behind them there, so they'll get the wildcard berth. I've got Tampa Bay winning their division. I've got the Eagles winning the division with Washington also a wildcard team. And then I've got Los Angeles winning with 49ers a wildcard team, which means
So
I've got Dallas missing the playoffs.
Mm.
And I've got, obviously, Atlanta and Carolina missing as well.
So we're actually identical there. So I got Detroit, Philly, Tampa, Rams are the winners, and then Commanders, Green Bay, 49ers are the ones that make it in. So we sort of said, like, I mentioned, there's usually 2 to 3 teams out each year. So I mean, I struggled with that, and Minnesota was one of the teams that I had missing. 49ers, I think, are going to be way up there as well. So that is our NFC, which, funny enough, as we said, we end up with the exact same teams, which is, this next one's going to be the interesting one. So we'll start here, AFC North. So the Browns are $26 to win the division, $3.26 to win the Super Bowl. The Steelers $6 to win, 51 for the Super Bowl. The Bengals at $3.40 and $18 to win the Super Bowl, and the favorites are the Baltimore Ravens $1.57, $7.50 to win the Super Bowl. So I have this division in this exact same order. I don't trust the Browns. I trust the Bengals are going to be better than what they were last year. If they could just get some semblance of a defense, some of those games last year, they actually win, because Joe Burrow was playing at pretty much an MVP caliber type of pace the way he played for last year. So, but I just, the draft, the off season that the Ravens have had, it's hard to see them toppled in this division. So yeah, Ravens for me, and Bengals coming in a close second.
Yeah, like I said, Ravens, until they can be shown they're getting beaten in this division, that's their division to take. Cincinnati's defense still is awful. So I think that holds them back from being able to take over the Ravens to win the division. However, on the flip side, I don't like the Bengals aren't going to start this year as bad as they have most other years when they've had Joe Burrow there. We saw him come out in the preseason and play. We saw Jamar Chase play in the preseason. So they're making a conscious effort to start the season off well, so they're not playing catch up the entire year. So I think that makes a massive difference and puts them right up there. They can be a 12-win team this year. But, yeah, I think Baltimore are too good overall. They're just so complete. They're going to be challenging for the Super Bowl this year. I think they're far and away the best team in this division. And so I can't pick against them. Bengals will be right there just because of that offense, but defensively they're so bad. It's just hard to keep that up offensively every single game. And then the Browns, Joe Flacco's quarterback, he can put up good stats, but it doesn't always lead to wins. So not really sure what to expect out of them. I don't think they'll be sort of cellar dwellers overall in the NFL, but I see them definitely coming last in the division just because of the Mike Tomlin effect in Pittsburgh. He doesn't have losing seasons. No matter what his roster is, he's got 500-plus winning teams. So, yeah, I don't know what we're going to see out of Aaron Rodgers there. I'm keen to find out just what he can be in Pittsburgh. I think it's a good match just because of the way they can be defensively and that sort of thing. But, yeah, I think obviously Baltimore and Cincinnati are the two teams out of this division where you'd expect them to be in the playoffs. And then Pittsburgh can see them being an 8 or 9 win team, more than likely 9 wins.
Well, we now move on to the division that is going to be the least interesting probably out of the AFC ones. The AFC South here. So Tennessee Titans are $7 to win the division, $176 for the Super Bowl. The Colts are $4.33 for the division, $81 for the Super Bowl. The Jags are $3.60 for the division, $61 for the Super Bowl. And the Texans are $2 to win the division, $21 to win the Super Bowl. I have this in the exact same order that we've read it there. So Texans to win, back through to Tennessee last. The Jags, to me, are going to be another one of these teams. I'm expecting them to be pretty decent with new head coach Liam Cohen, but I'm expecting them to be maybe a 2-year sort of process. The same sort of way that I was mentioning earlier with Chicago. Year one, they're going to be competitive and up there, but I think where you'll see the real team coming together is year two. So we will get first year, we'll see Travis Hunter on offense with Brian Thomas, having him then also play defense a little bit here and there. Look, this division is not going to be one of my ones that I'm going to be keeping too much of an eye on. I just think that the Texans, with their main pieces they've got there with CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryan's head coach, Will Anderson on the defense, Derek Stingley Jr. as well. I just think they're going to be too good for the other teams in this division, and these teams are probably not going to be high on my list of teams that I am going to be watching on Sundays or Mondays for us.
Mondays, no. It's like we don't know what we're going to get out of the Titans. We don't know what Cam Ward's going to be as a rookie yet. Like, it's just tough to see them winning 5+ games with their roster the way it is at the moment. So they've got a lot of work to do, obviously, and that's why they had the number 1 overall pick. The Colts, like, Daniel Jones is your starting quarterback. Like, I think that says just about enough about their chances of competing for this division. So they've got weapons on that offense. They've got players on the team that are really good. But when Daniel Jones is winning your quarterback competition, you're not expecting a good year. So they'll win maybe 6 games, I think, this year. And then I think Jacksonville are one of the most interesting teams this year. You touched on Travis Hunter being there, playing both ways, a lot of offense and then coming out on defense as well. So he's going to be exciting to watch. It's going to be interesting to see how much of a spark he can give them. And I think Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to what people were expecting of him. And obviously this year is one of his most important ones, to be able to take that jump and be able to win games for the team instead of throwing them away. So it's just how much of a jump can he take with Liam Cohen there as well. But I think this is the Texans' division to lose just because there's so many question marks about everyone else in the division. And it's not that the Texans are that like far and away better than everyone else. It's just they're better than everyone in this division. And I don't think the other teams, other than Jacksonville, will really sort of trouble them.
Yeah, no, there's spot on there. So moving on to AFC East, this is also another one where it's going to have some interesting players to watch, but probably not too many teams in the way that I'll be spending a lot of time on. So the New York Jets are $15 to win the division, $2.76 to win the Super Bowl. The Dolphins are $7.81 to win the Super Bowl. The New England Patriots are $6 for the division, $67 for the Super Bowl, and the Buffalo Bills $1.33 to win the division and $8 to win the Super Bowl. Now, once again, a bunch of teams that will probably not pay a lot of attention to, but more so players, individual players paying attention to. Obviously, I'll pay attention to the Bills because I'm expecting them to be way up there in terms of Super Bowl contention. New England Patriots, I'll be intrigued to see what it's like with the Mike Vrabel, Drake May, Travion Henderson, those types of, those guys there. Miami is an interesting one because I could see them either finishing second or dead last in this division. They could finish second with the guys they've got, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua, but then they're also one Tua concussion away from these guys being completely irrelevant and no one actually realizes they're still playing and they finish dead last. So Mike McDaniel's also, I've seen on some things, is way in line there to be first coach fired. He's in that type of territory is where they're sort of looking at him there. And then the New York Jets, I like what they did by bringing Aaron Glenn in. I understand what they've done by bringing Justin Fields in. And the concept of having them as being a running team. I like some of their pieces on their defense. I really like the Williams brothers, Quincy and Quinnen. Sauce Gardner I really like, but I've got the Bills. I've got them in this order, but I could see this completely changed after the Bills. I could see all of these teams finishing anywhere from second to last in the division, just based off of how weird this division could be and how weird these teams are. So Buffalo is going to be way up there for me on this one.
Yeah, this division's become sort of like it was when Tom Brady was there, where it was New England's division year after year, and everyone else was just making up the numbers. That's what it's become now with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, where they're basically a lock every single year to win this division. And then everyone else is there to make up the numbers. I'm excited to see what... I've never liked the Patriots, but I'm excited to see what they'll do with Drake May there at quarterback again with another year under his belt now, going into year two. I think he's exciting to watch. Mike Vrabel there as a coach, we know how hard-nosed he is. So defensively, they'll start to be really tough to beat there. Travion Henderson could be the most exciting player in the league after this year. So there's a lot there that you're excited to watch for the Patriots, but overall they're still a team that's got a lot of holes and a lot of players that need to come in to improve them. So, yeah, them at $6 to win the division, obviously not happening, but to be second to win this division after last year, that's a big jump for them as well. So, and I think that just goes to show how much concern there is around Tua with the Dolphins. Like you said, the Dolphins are basically a Tua concussion away from being sort of a top 5 pick in the draft. Like if they lose him for any period of time, their season's done. They haven't been able to plug anyone in when he's been injured and win games. So it just shows how important he is for that offense. And when you're in a position where he's as injured as he has been over the last few years, it's so tough for Miami to do anything. You just hope that Tua's out there for sort of 15 games this year. And they're just a team that seem to get injured a lot. Like we've seen Devon A-Chain, he's already injured. He's already in doubt to start week 1. So, yeah, it's tough for Miami. I don't know. Like, so much rides on Tua being fit. So it's hard to even place them in this division. Because with Tua, they can be a 9-win team. They can push for 10 wins. But the minute he misses any games, they're basically written off for those games. So, yeah, I see them being sort of a 7 to 9 win team. Yeah, and then the Jets, again, they're such an unknown for this year. They've got some pieces in place, but there's still so much work to do. And Aaron Glenn, first year head coach, it's tough to see them sort of competing for second in this division. So first is locked in with the Bills. Anything after that, who knows? Like anything
Roll the
could
dice
happen.
and guess. Yeah, roll the dice and guess. So move on to the last division here. It's the AFC West. So the Vegas Raiders are $10 for the division, 126 for the Super Bowl. The Chargers are $4 for the division, 23 for the Super Bowl. The Denver Broncos are $3.75 to win the division, 21 for the Super Bowl, and the Kansas City Chiefs are $1.91 and $8.50 for the Super Bowl. So Dan, go first. Give me your winner here and how this order's going to finish.
Like we talk about the NFC North and AFC North being the best divisions in football, this could be one of the most interesting divisions in football because I don't think there's a bad team in this division. Like the Raiders,
No.
$10 to win the division. I don't see them making that sort of a leap. But they've got Geno Smith at quarterback. You bring in Ashton Genty. They've got players on this offense that are really exciting and can make a name for themselves. So I can see them causing havoc in this division against everyone, even the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think they come last in the division, but I also see them winning 8 games this year. So I think that's how close this division's going to be. The Chargers, they're up and down too much. Like it's hard to pick them. Jim Harbaugh there, obviously solid coach, really helps them. Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, has his moments where he has some brain farts, does some foolish things, but again, he's been let down a lot by the offense around him in the past as well. So Amari and Hampton is a big ad for them through the draft. They'll use him a lot this year, and he's a really good running back. So they're going to be competing. I've got the Chiefs winning. Chargers are going to be competing with the Broncos for second and for that wild card spot, I think, in the AFC. So it's one of those ones where they just need Justin Herbert to be at his best and everyone else to step up around him. Bringing in Keenan Allen, I think, is a good thing for that offense as well. Yeah, he's past his best, but he's someone that Justin Herbert can rely on. So, and he needs that alongside Bladen McConkey. So I'm expecting a 9-10 win sort of season from the Chargers this year. The Broncos, they surprised me last year. I wasn't high on Sean Payton as a coach outside of what he did with Drew Brees. I thought he was sort of propped up by Drew Brees and then sort of found out a lot in the years after that, after Brees retired. But what he did with Bo Nix, who I also wasn't high on coming into the last year, what he did with Bo Nix and this team was phenomenal, to be honest. I had to eat a lot of crow about this team. So what sort of, I guess, jump do we see from Bo Nix this year? Do we see any sort of regression now with teams having a full season of tape on him? I'm not sure. He just looks like he's a winner in this league. He makes plays, which, full credit to him, it was better than I expected him to be last year. So I think Denver are right there sort of to challenge for this division with winning sort of 10, 11 games maybe. But, yeah, between them and the Chargers, it can sort of flip, I think, comfortably. The Chiefs, to me, clear team to beat this year in the division. I think that Super Bowl loss is going to hurt them, like sting them big time. And we could see Mahomes come out and just F you to the league and light it up the entire year. So, yeah, it's a Chiefs division to lose. I don't see them losing it. I see them winning minimum 12 games this year and everyone else sort of chasing them.
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs winning. I've got the Broncos are a close second. I've got the Raiders finishing third and the Chargers finishing fourth. But I do think it's one of those things that it's a Chargers 9 wins, Raiders 10 type of thing, or maybe division wins that separates them if it's a 9-win type of thing. I'm a bit higher on the Raiders than a lot of other people this year. I just think the upgrade of having Ashton Genty and Geno Smith to go with your Brock Bowers, bringing back Amari Cooper. Like, I know he's not going to be the Amari Cooper of his first run with the Raiders, but I think that's going to be a big upgrade. Yes, they lost Christian Wilkins on the defense, but I just like them a little bit more. So, yeah, Chiefs for me, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. So my AFC teams here, I'll get my two out from last year that I had. I've got the Steelers and the Chargers out from last year. And so then I've got the Chiefs winning, Baltimore, Buffalo, Houston, all division winners. And then my three wildcard teams are Denver, Cincinnati, and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
So I've gone Bengals and Raiders in for Chargers and Steelers. So keeping it within those divisions. So they're
Did
my
you
AFC
have
teams. Who
Broncos
have
as
you
a
got?
wild card team?
Yeah, Broncos is the wild card. Yeah.
All right. So I've got Baltimore winning the AFC North. I've got Houston winning the AFC South. I've got the Bills winning the AFC East. And I've got Kansas City winning the AFC West. I've got the Broncos as a wildcard team, and I have the Bengals as a wildcard team. And then I've got, I believe I'm looking at Chargers as a wildcard team. I don't know how many teams I just picked then, but I don't know if that was 7 or 8.
7. No, you're good.
Chargers are 7, yeah. I think they squeak in with 10 wins this year.
Mm.
So we're basically the same, just with Chargers and Raiders flipped as far as wins and wildcard, I think.
I just went with generally over the last, I think it's like 15, 20 years. Generally, each season there's usually somewhere between 2 to 4 teams from the playoffs the year before out, and then there's 2 to 4 new teams in every year. So I went with 2 new teams with the Raiders and the Bengals. So that was sort of my thinking a little bit behind this. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to, we'll give our Super Bowl winners here and who's going to make it. So my Super Bowl, I've got Baltimore, Philly, and I've got Philly winning again.
I've got Philly winning the NFC. Until teams can show they can beat them in the playoffs, I just think they're too well-rounded, too good overall. I think they can go back to the Super Bowl. I've got the Buffalo Bills in an absolute nightmare division. Like, there's probably 4 teams that can win that AFC. I just think it's Buffalo's time. So I've got Buffalo versus Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I've been waiting 20 plus years to see it. Outside of the Packers winning the Super Bowl every year, Buffalo's probably the team that I want to win the Super Bowl each year. And damn it, this is the year it's going to happen. Unless it's the Packers, then unless it's the Packers getting to the Super Bowl, which I think this year they'll be thereabouts, but I think they just fall short. I think this is Buffalo's year.
Yeah.
Josh Allen MVP, coming off the MVP. I just think this is their time. They need to get over the hump. They need to get over Kansas City. Ravens obviously going to be really hard to beat. I spoke about Mahomes and Kansas City giving an FU to the league after last year's loss in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I can see them getting back to the Super Bowl, but I just think Buffalo, this is the time. So, Buffalo for the Super Bowl. Outside of the Packers winning, it's Buffalo.
I like it. Speaking of MVP, we're going to go through our awards now. We're just going to race through these. We won't give too much analysis because it's quite hard to pick some of these early on. But MVP, who have you got for MVP, Dan?
I've got Joe Burrow. I think if they won sort of 12 games last year, 11, 12 games, he was the MVP. Like, he put up monster numbers. It was insane this season that he had. But because they started off slow and they didn't get to the playoffs and that sort of thing, it affected him. Obviously, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson had massive seasons as well. I just think Joe Burrow and the Bengals come out firing from the start. They're not going to drop sort of 3-4 games off the bat. So I think Joe Burrow MVP this year, it's $6.50.
So I just went sort of chalk. I went Lamar $5. He probably could have won it last year. I would have been like if they came back and they said Lamar won it last year, I was not going to be absolutely appalled by it. I love
Yep.
that Josh Allen won it, but I'm not. I wouldn't have been appalled if Lamar won it. So I think he's going to win it this year. So that backs up my thought process of having Baltimore in the Super Bowl as well. So uh, offensive player of the year, I have gone with Jamar Chase at $7.50. He
Funnily
was
enough,
my offensive player.
so have I.
Yeah, it's
I was
the
shocked
guy
when you
won the
said
Triple Crown last year.
yeah. And again, it comes back to Joe Burrow and the
Mm,
Bengals from the start of the season being a lot better than what they were last year. So
yeah,
Joe Burrow MVP, Chase Offensive Player of the Year, Bengals making the playoffs as a 12-win team.
I like it. Defensive player of the year. Who have you gone with the defensive player of the year?
So this was tough for me because I want to pick Micah Parsons so bad. I think the impact that he will have in this Packers defense is off the charts. But I also didn't want to just be a Packers homer. So I've gone a little bit left field here, and it hurts me to say it because I've gone with the Detroit Lions player, and I think Aiden Hutchinson is about to have an absolute monster season, and he's going to be right up there as the best defensive player in the league by far. And he just affects the game so much, gets after the quarterback non-stop. I just think he puts it together this year. Maybe a little bit slow out of the blocks the first couple of weeks, but yeah, I don't think there'll be much holding him back once he hits his straps, sort of week 3, 4. So hurts me to say, but I've gone Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I couldn't get there with Aiden Hutchinson. Like I said, as I said earlier, just the coming off the knee injury is what's scaring me. I think Aiden Hutchinson will probably go close to being my pick next year, but I did go with Micah. I just think him in that defense and having a guy like Rashawn Gary on the other side, I think it's just going to be one of those things like it's going to be too hard to pass up for him. So there are some other guys in here that I like, but I'm not sure if I could pick them. Like obviously last year, Pat Surtain won the Defensive Player of the Year, and he's not even in the top 5, 6 guys here. So it's really hard to, this could sort of be anyone. But I do think that, yeah, I'm going with Micah in this one. Offensive Rookie of the Year. We've gone pretty chalk because there's only a real sort of couple guys you expected to. I went with Cam Ward at $3.60.
$4. Yeah, I went with Cam Ward as well.
Oh, sorry, $4. Yeah,
Cam Ward's second favourite behind Ashton Genty. I just think as a quarterback and with how bad the Titans were, if he puts up good stat, he doesn't have to be obviously next world as a rookie. We don't need to see a sort of Jaden Daniels rookie season from last year for him to win it. as much as I love
Mm.
Ashton Jeanty and I think he'll be super good in that Raiders offense, I just think Cam Ward, starting from week one, in that division as well, where they can steal some wins away from some of the other teams there. I couldn't go past him being the quarterback there, number one overall pick. To me, he's my pick. I can see Jeanty winning it, having a big season, but yeah, just too hard to go past Cam Ward.
Yeah. If I was going to go an outsider, I'm going to go and be a homer and go Tedderow and McMillan at $12. I actually also had one other Smoky who I could see, and it's actually Tyler Warren from the Colts. Just for the pure fact, I could see him being the number one option for like a Daniel Jones and ending up with like a Brock Bowers-esque type of season because, you know, it's just, I could see it happening. I'm not saying it will, but I could see that happening, and that would be his path to doing it. But I think if it was going to be someone out of them, I am going to go with Tedderow and McMillan just because I'm a Panthers homer and I think he could win.
I
But
just think with Tyler Warren there's too much competition for targets. Like that wide
oh
receiver
yeah,
room is solid, so I don't see him getting enough targets to have that year. I think Travion
yeah,
Henderson for me is a smoky at $13,
yeah, I like that
especially if
one.
he's returning kicks as well. He can be explosive and just light it up. But we heard today Matthew Golden is wearing number 0. So Agent Zero, Matthew Golden, the first round pick for the Green Bay Packers at wide receiver. First time in 21 years. He's paying $21 offensive rookie of the year. Let's go.
Yeah, he was actually a guy I was actually tempted to say, but then you talked me out of it earlier when you're like, "Oh, Golden would need 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns." I went, okay, maybe not.
It's a massive ask for him to win it in this offense. I just
I,
don't see it. But geez, it'd be a good story.
yeah, I feel like we're both going to have the exact same pick here for defensive rookie of the year. So who have you got?
I think the odds speak that pretty much everyone's going to have the same pick as well. Abdul Carter at $2.90 is insanely short for defensive rookie of the year. Like you look at the
Mm.
other guys, and it's insane. Jalen Walker, $9.75. Mike Green, $11.50. Like $2.90. I don't see anyone taking it from him. It would need a massive effort for someone to overtake him, but I just don't see it.
So yeah, obviously the same. I've got two Smokies here. One of them, it's really not because I'm being a Panthers homer here. This is literally just because I could see him playing a lot here, and that's actually Nick Scoughton. He's at $41. I could see him being a guy who's out there a lot and maybe racks up some tackles, gets, 8 or 9 sacks, maybe whatever. But it's just one of those guys who is around there and maybe has that Abdul Carter type season, but sort of no one's really paying attention to him because it's Carolina. Like I could see him being like a outsider there. My real Smoky though, who I actually genuinely believe could actually win this, and no one's really speaking about him. And I think you'll like this because you like this player in the draft, and it's probably going to shock you, I think. But would you take Carson Schwettinger at $31 to lead the league in tackles? I could see him because I could see the Browns defense being out on the field a lot
I'll
and
be on the
him
field.
being a guy who's out there and making a ton of tackles.
See, the issue is like when you look at linebackers, they're not making those flashy plays that stand out.
Mm,
So he's going to need something like 150 plus tackles, pick up a couple of sacks, maybe a couple interceptions, a couple forced fumbles. I just think, yeah, he's not going to sort of stand out on tape as much as an Abdul Carter, obviously.
mm.
But yeah, the stats wise, he can, like I said, he can lead the league in tackles. He's around the ball non-stop. So as far as defensive rookie of the year, I don't see it. And obviously, he's a massive outsider, but I guess there's a path there where he can come into the conversation.
So my thought process for his path that he could win it is the He was known as Darius for a long time, but Shaquille Leonard with Indianapolis, 2018, he was the defensive rookie of the year. He had 163 tackles, 7 sacks, 2 picks. I'm not saying that Carson Schwessinger could have those exact type numbers, but I could see him having. So his Shaq Leonard's second season in the NFL, he had 121 tackles, 5 sacks. He also had 5 interceptions. I could see him being a guy with 120-ish sort of tackles, maybe 3 to 4 sacks, maybe 3 picks. If he puts up a season like that as a rookie, 120 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 picks, I mean, that's way up there in the defensive rookie of the year conversation. So to me, he's the smoky there that I would be tempted with. Not saying he's priced at $31 for a reason. That's all I'm saying.
It's funny how we haven't even mentioned Travis Hunter for either offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year. I can kind of, depending obviously the stats that he puts up, but can you picture the NFL just as long as he has a good season on one side of the ball, which I'd expect offensive side of the ball more so, because I feel clearly he's going to play a lot more on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But if he puts up, say, 70 catches, 7-8 touchdowns, can you see them just looking at him going, you know what, because he affects the play on both sides of the ball, we can't just give it like an umbrella rookie of the year pick, but maybe we can just slide him in as offensive rookie of the year. They sort of, I'd imagine they'll want to use him as like a face of the NFL type player. So it's just one of those things where they just nudge him up a little bit in that offensive rookie of the year sort of standing.
I think he'll get votes, but I don't think he will have the type of season that'll actually put him in. I think it'll be one of those things. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in top 5 in offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year. Like, it wouldn't shock me, but I don't see him winning either.
Yeah,
Because I just think there's going to be other guys standing out.
Yeah. And like I said, he's not going to play enough on especially the defensive side of the ball. Where if he was going to be, I guess, a cornerback first and then play on offense, like sprinkled in on offense, I can see him winning defensive rookie of the year. But I don't think he's going to put up enough stats to win offensive rookie of the year. And defensively, I don't think he's going to be close. So, but yeah, it's just an interesting discussion that probably the most exciting player in the league this year almost. We're not really even considering for rookie of the year anyway.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is now football season is actually just a couple days away. So we are going to preview the first 2 games in this season. Then we'll do another show before the games start next week. So we are going to head to our keys to kick off. That's it, the keys to kick off. So we're going here with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia are favourites at $1.26. The spread is -7.5 to the Eagles, and the over/under is 47.5. Dan, just give me a bit of just quickly, because it's a bit hard to go into too much analysis for first game of the season, but just give me your thoughts on this game, because my thoughts are pretty much, I think the Eagles are going to stomp all over the Cowboys, especially without them having Micah Parsons there. I just see them being too good, and coming in off I know it's the beat Dallas, the Philly, all the rivalry, all of that sort of stuff, but I just don't see Dallas being the team that's going to be able to give Philly some trouble in this early season.
No, normally at the moment with where the two teams are, Philly are clearly better by a long way. But then you add in all the drama with Micah Parsons and everything that's gone on this week. I can't see Dallas getting within 14 points, to be honest. But Philly, I know early season, weird things can happen. Offenses can be clunky. Scores aren't quite as high a lot of the time. But, yeah, Philly are just way too good. And I don't think this is close at all.
No, I would be, if I was if you're looking at this and it was something, we'll have a betting segment in a moment. But if that was me, I'd be taking Philly and the points in this one. Like I don't see them struggling in this game. Obviously anything can happen with injuries or whatever, but if everyone ends the game healthy, I see Philly having quite an easy win there. Second game that we have is Saturday morning for us in Australia. It is Kansas City versus the Chargers. Kansas City are $1.59 favorites. The spread is -3.5 to the Chiefs, and the over under there is 45.5. Look, I think, as you said, this is going to be one of those divisions where all the teams are pretty close, and but as you said, the Chiefs losing the Super Bowl is going to make them more pissed off than ever, and they're going to be one of those teams that's just going to be really difficult to play all season. The way that teams have changed their defense to try and contain them is something that teams are going to have to the Chiefs are going to have to keep working through, and obviously they're going to be without Rashee Rice for the start of the first 6 games of the season for him accepting his suspension. I just find it hard at the moment for the Chargers to. I think it'll be close and it'll be competitive, but I just feel that first game after the Super Bowl, Chiefs are just going to come out breathing fire, and they are going to pick up the win in this one.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as well. The Chargers can be a good team, but we know Kansas City can be a great team. So I just think they'll be too good. First game of the year, coming off that Super Bowl loss where they just got demolished. Chiefs will be looking to make a statement first game. And like you said, I think it'll be close enough where you're sort of intrigued by it the entire game, but I don't think Chargers will be good enough to beat them week 1.
Yeah. We'll get into the other games when we do our show later in the week. We'll do our following show, but now we are going to head on to the lines of scrimmage. So the lines of scrimmage is our betting segment here. So both Dan and I are. The previous years we've done this, we would go through every single game and give touchdown scorers for each game. We're not necessarily doing that this year. We're going to go through and look at maybe some of our favorite just straight prop bets, multi bets that we put on, touchdown scorers. It could be a bit of a mixture of all when we do the rest of the games, and they're not broken up where we just got 2 to start with and then the rest afterwards. You'll have a variance here. So that's where we may do, say, just one of our favorite prop bets per game that we like. So, that's where you might have one from the Kansas City game, one from the Packers game, one from the Panthers game, etc., etc. But this one here, so we've just gone with the 2 games here. We'll do our bet. So, Dan, give me your bet that you are putting on for the Dallas Philadelphia game that you really like the look of.
So we're going to put on a same game multi here and try to keep it as, obviously we want to keep it as much of a chance as coming good as we can. But first game of the season, anything can happen, and it's sort of hard to get a gauge straight away. So we're just sort of trying to keep it as basic as we can while still getting a lot of value as well. So I've gone with a 6-leg multi here. We've got Dak at 250 plus passing at $1.97. I think they're obviously going to be coming from behind by a long way, so they're just going to be tossing the ball. They have no choice. They don't have a great running game. They don't have a good defense. They're going to have to rely on Dak just slinging it all around the park, and that'll lead to a lot of numbers for him. So 250 plus passing, $1.97. I'm going to combine that with Dak with 2+ touchdowns. Like we said, they're going to have to score points, and it's going to have to come from Dak. So I can see them getting maybe a touchdown early and then probably nothing for most of the game, and then maybe some junk time touchdown as well. So I just think 2 touchdowns for him at $2.10 is pretty good value. And then we go to Saquon, 70+ rushing yards. Philly playing with the lead. The only thing I think stops this from happening is they blow Dallas out from the start and they let Saquon sit on the bench for half the second half, but he could have 70 plus in the first half. So getting that at $1.24, it's not big odds, but it's a nice little boost there to the multi. I've also got Saquon with 2+ touchdowns there. I think Eagles are going to move this ball easily. So there's going to be plenty of chances for Saquon to get down in the red zone and get those touchdowns. So 2+ touchdowns at $3.30 is insane value for mine. I can't pass that up. And then we go back to Dallas here with the receiving game. Like I said, I'm expecting Dak to have a lot of yards, so that then flows onto the receivers. CD Lamb, 70+ receiving yards, $1.72. To me, I feel like easy money. He's obviously going to be their main target. So 70+ yards in a game where they're going to be playing from behind. To me, lock that in. And then this one was a bit tougher. I just wanted that little bit extra value there. And George Pickens for 30+ receiving yards. On face value, it seems really easy. It'll be even 2 receptions can get him over 30 yards. At $1.20, again, it's the same with the Saquon 70+. You're just looking at that value to bump your multi-price up a little bit. But, yeah, Pickens is only going to need three catches tops to get over that 30 yards. So, to me, it's just a little boost to get the multi-price up there. So, 6-leg multi, total of $15.25 there, which is really good value for things that I feel make the most sense for me out of this game.
Yeah, so mine has more legs on it than yours. You had 6. Mine's got 11, but a lot of them are really watered down. That's how I try to get the value out of it. Now, I did do some research on this game as to why I picked these guys, so I'll do that afterwards. But I've got Jalen Hurts, 175 passing yards, 20 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Because I could see, once again, they have not banned the tush push. If it gets inside that 2-yard line, Jalen Hurts is going to score. That's how I'm looking at that. Saquon Barkley, 60 rushing yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown, 50 receiving yards. Devontae Smith, 40 receiving yards. Dallas Goedert, 10 receiving yards. Then I went CD Lamb, 60 yards receiving. George Pickens, 20 yards receiving. And Jake Ferguson, 15 yards. Now, that is paying $17 there. So a little bit higher odds there, but that is throwing a few extra legs in compared to Dan. Now, the reason why I went with those guys, just quickly, Jalen Hurts in his 7 career games against Dallas, he averages 205 passing yards a game, and he averages close to 65 rushing yards per game with nearly 1 rushing touchdown per game against Dallas. So that was my thinking there. Saquon averages pretty much 68 rushing yards per game against Dallas. He's only at 0.3 touchdowns per game, but remember, a lot of his games were when he was with the Giants, so they weren't really scoring very much. So it was a bit harder for him to score touchdowns against them. Devontae Smith averages 61 receiving yards against Dallas, hence why I put him in there for 40. AJ Brown averages 79.2 receiving yards against Dallas in his career. That's why I've gone him a little bit light on 50. That's why first game of the season, I figure I'll water some of these down compared to their career averages, and then we'll go from there. Dallas Goedert. He averages 43 receiving yards per game against Dallas as well. So they were there, my thinking there. And then in terms of the quarterbacks, Dan, this would be one that you will like for yours, where you had Dak at 250 passing yards. Dak averages in his career 261.7 yards per game throwing against Philly. So that's one there for your that you would like. CD Lamb averages 75 yards per game against Philly. So once again, that works for both of us. You've got 70. I've got him at 60 there. George Pickens has played Philly once, and in that one game, he had 6 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown there. So, that'll be interesting to see what he's like here. And Jake Ferguson, he averages 45.8 receiving yards per game against Philly. So that's why I've gone with my guys there. It's a watered down sort of thing. It's early season. You're still getting a lot of value there at $17 per for for every dollar that you put on there. So a $10 bet, you win $170 there. So that was my thinking there. Then when we look at the Kansas City versus Chargers, I have got what number there? Seven leg there. So I've got Patrick Mahomes 200. Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert both 200 passing yards. Isaiah Pacheco 40 rushing yards. Travis Kelsey 30 receiving yards. Lad McConkey 50 receiving yards. Xavier Worthy 40 receiving yards, and a Marion Hampton with a touchdown, and that's a $10. That's paying $10 there. So once again, it's a bit more. I could probably water it down a little bit more because the one I'm sort of more so worried about is Xavier Worthy out of everyone. If Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Pacheco, like I think Pacheco coming back from a broken leg last year really hampered him at the back end of the year. So we sort of got the lasting image in our mind is Isaiah Pacheco not running to the potential we're sort of used to. But I sort of like the rest of them. But yeah, it's one of those things I could water it down a little bit more, but that's sort of what I was thinking with this particular one.
Yeah, this one I had trouble with, to be honest, because, like you said, we want to get that value as well, but we don't want to go too sort of crazy with it. And the more legs that you add on, there's just something random that's going to happen that affects you and makes you lose it. So I was
Yeah.
trying to keep that in mind as well, and why I kept this one to 6 legs. Same with my Dallas Philly one. So I think we're going to see a bit of a shootout in this one, and I've got Mahomes and Herbert both over 225 passing. Mahomes is at $1.57 for that, and Herbert is at $1.83. And I've got both Mahomes and Herbert 2+ touchdowns. Mahomes at $1.67 and Herbert at $2.20 for that. So, like I say, I can see a bit of a shootout here between both quarterbacks. And touching on Pacheco, we don't know how much the Chiefs are going to run early on in the season, how much they're going to be able to run early on. We've got
Mm.
Amari and Hampton, the rookie there for the Chargers. How much do they lean on him first game? Najee Harris I don't believe he's going to be playing the first week, being that it's a Saturday game for us here, Friday game there. So, yeah, I can
Mm.
see him getting a bit of work, but again, leaning on the rookie first game is going to be tough. So I've sort of left him out of my multi here completely. I've got Ladd 50+ receiving yards at $1.30. Keenan Allen coming in, I think he'll get targeted a lot as well, but I've got to see it first, how it plays out. We know the Herbert Ladd connection there, so I've got him at 50+ receiving. And then you touched in the preview of the game, Rashee Rice suspended, missing those 6 weeks. I think Xavier Worthy can really take advantage of that. And if we're going to
Mm.
see the Chiefs passing a lot more than what we have, I guess, the last couple of seasons, then he's really going to benefit from that. So I've got him at 50+ receiving. And to be honest, that could be 2 catches. That's all he needs to get over
Yeah.
50 yards. So at $1.47, I was happy to put that in there. So like I said, I've gone fairly short with this one. It was tough for me. So 6 legs, $7.50, the value there for the multi. And yeah, hopefully we get off to a good start this season and keep it simple the first couple games, or as simple as we can, I guess.
Yeah. And we'll have more analysis as the season goes on, and each week we'll do different sort of bets. My only thinking with that Marion Hampton is I'm not expecting him to have a big game, but if you get the Chargers to make it down and they're inside the 5 yard line, because it doesn't have to be a rushing touchdown, so to speak, like a Justin Herbert screen pass and a Marion Hampton gets into the end zone, or he could have one of those things where he has 12 rushing attempts for 52 yards for the game and 1 touchdown. I could see it wouldn't shock me, that type of thing. So that was my thinking for putting him in there. So that is the end of our show there. So, Dan, you and I are both very excited. Football is on the way. We've had the first weekend, really, of college football started. There's some college football tomorrow for us, which we'll be able to watch. By the time this episode comes out, the game's probably already been played. But any final thoughts that you've got before we get out of here for tonight?
We've had, obviously, our first show back is about as late as we wanted to do it. We've had so many
Mm.
hiccups during the off season, trying to obviously line up both of us being able to record at the same time. You've obviously had another child as well, so there's been
Yeah,
so many
because they've
things.
had a baby, so it's been hard to try
A lot of things have gone
and do
against
stuff.
us. We wanted to get a lot of content out a lot earlier than this, obviously, and we've tried so hard to do it. Just a lot of things didn't pan out for us the way we wanted, but we are back. We are hoping to have a massive year, hoping to put out consistent content each week as much as we can. It's a little bit tough on working nights, so matching up our schedule together isn't the easiest of things, but we will do our best to get out plenty of content each week. So I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to watch the football again and bring on another massive season.
Yeah, and the show this year is going to be slightly different than how you guys may have seen it from previous years. We've got our own YouTube channel now. We've got segments that we're going to be working on. We're not necessarily going to be touching on every single game that we were previously. So it's just something that we will be looking at slightly different this year. But once again, as Dan said, we've got a lot planned. We just want to get it out to you guys. We want the season to start. We want to have some team specified stuff. We want to have some college stuff. We're going to, obviously, once the season ends or it starts to wind down that little bit, we will also, obviously also ramp back up into our draft stuff that we do, that Dan and I love to do, and we would be doing even if we weren't podcasting. Him and I would just be talking about these guys constantly anyway. So plenty to come from us. So Dan, thank you again for this, and I am going to give you the honor for our first show back. You can give the sign off to everyone.
Welcome back. It's a good show back to start with. We are happy to be back with Optimus NFL, and you can join us each week and get the best analysis possible for each NFL game moving forward. So enjoy listening. Let us know some feedback, what you want to see, what you want us to improve on. Just give us whatever. Any comments are appreciated and taken on board. So good to be back.
Bye for now, everyone.